In this Dragon Ball What If, Goku has become a Super Saiyan earlier than the original story. By being only a moment slower in the Saiyan Saga, Gohan was killed, which caused Goku to become a Super Saiyan. After teaming up with Vegeta to defeat Freeza, the two Saiyans are returning home, only to have another threat awaiting them. A vengeful Dr. Gero was tinkering in the mountains, trying to make the perfect artificial life form, but this time he's aware of the existence of the Super Saiyan, and he even has its DNA to analyze and use. Meanwhile, Goku and Vegeta are training with each other on the way back to Earth, and even more interestingly, a newly revived child is anxiously awaiting the return of his father, death having made him want to seek strength more than ever before. Before we get into that though, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you want more Dragon Ball content. Also, follow me on Twitter if you haven't yet. It's the best place to keep up with what's going on with the channel, me, and more. Twitter.com/Carthu's Dojo. After a month passes, Goku and Vegeta finally return to Earth. Their landing point was trackable due to the ship being made by Capsule Corp, so some of our cast make their way there to greet them on the landing. Notably, Gohan is the most excited to reunite with his father after months of being separated. An embrace is shared between father and son, but Goku could tell that Gohan was a lot different. In the afterlife, Gohan chose to stay with Piccolo, and that meant he would also train under King Kai, making Gohan even stronger than Goku was upon being revived in the Saiyan Saga. Something interesting to note here is that King Kai's training made Piccolo at least as strong as Nail, probably stronger, and if you use the guidebook statements, Nail only made Piccolo 10 times stronger, meaning his training with King Kai gave him a power level of at least 100,000. This may all seem crazy, but that's not even everything, since Piccolo only arrived on King Kai's world a day after Goku started his journey to Namek. That means he was only training under the Kai for about 5 days before being revived. So King Kai's training provided a boost of over 28 times in 5 days. The point of explaining all of that is to apply it to Gohan. In the Saiyan Saga, Gohan had a max power level of 2800. Taking the 28 times boost into account, Gohan is now at a power level of 78,400. What's even more crazy is that actually isn't stronger than he was in the original story at this point. During the fight against Freeza, Gohan had peaked at a power level of 200,000 when not angry, a ridiculously high power level that was more than likely due to a combination of Zenkais and having his power unlocked by Elder Guru. So while Gohan is stronger than Goku imagined he'd be, there's still plenty of room for him to improve even further, and the first thing to teach him is how to become a Super Saiyan. So, training begins for the next year and a half. Having Gohan die was a real eye-opener for Chi-Chi as well, so she's more supportive of his training since she'd obviously prefer he'd be alive. Notably, this isn't a character change for Gohan. He still wants to be a scholar, but he sees equal merit in strength, so he better splits his time rather than devoting himself entirely to training or studying. This begs the question though, why even train? Well, it's simple. Beyond just Gohan's own desire to be stronger, in this timeline, Goku returns to Earth sooner than the original story, so on the day of his return and reunion with everyone else, another person is present, future Trunks. With Goku back on Earth sooner, Trunks could give Goku the heart medicine and the warning about the androids earlier than originally. I'd also like to address something here before you comment about it, and you know who you are. Yardrat has nothing to do with the heart virus at all. Goku catches the heart virus 2.5 years after Yardrat in the future timeline, or 3 years after Yardrat in the main timeline. The way Trunks describes the virus to Goku is an incurable disease in this time, but in the future, there's a medicine for it. This means this is an Earth disease that has medication to cure it generally available to the public in the future. This wasn't a cure made by Bulma, so please stop commenting that the virus came from Yardrat on every video. It didn't. Also, viruses don't come from poisonous atmospheres anyway. He'd just be poisoned, not diseased. Pretty simple there if you ask me. Let's get back to the story though. This additional year and a half of training is massive. During this additional year and a half, Gohan not only catches up to his canon power, but also surpasses it. Super Saiyan was still something outside his grasp, but that wasn't too important at the moment, as there were still 3 years for him to unlock that power for himself. With no Freeza surviving Namek, King Cold had no way to find out Earth is where the people who killed his son are from, so for now, he's not an issue. This means the full 4.5 years are spent training, but it leads to something more pertinent than just a raw power increase. Goku and Vegeta are now painfully aware that Super Saiyans aren't enough in the future to defeat the androids, and the transformation on its own wasn't even enough to defeat Freeza either, so they realize they have to find a power beyond Super Saiyan. Having Super Saiyan early allows the two to see beyond the Super Saiyan wall earlier as well, and so they train to surpass Super Saiyan before the androids even emerge. So despite Gero being aware of Super Saiyans, the Super Saiyan grades eluded him. This means we have quite a few changes to go over, and one of them is the timing of the heart virus. Since Goku is back on Earth early, I wouldn't go as far as to say he gets the heart virus years in advance, just that he gets it the same time as he did in the future timeline. For those who aren't aware, that's a 6-month difference. 6 months earlier in the future timeline, that is. This means Goku is cured and back in fighting condition when androids 19 and 20 are released. Of course, this leads to the two artificial humans being easily defeated by both Vegeta and Goku, as they have mastered Super Saiyan in the 4.5 years of training. Alongside them, Piccolo and Gohan were training as well. Since Gohan achieved the Super Saiyan transformation later, he was the last to gain mastery over the form, but his potential allowed him to catch up to Goku and Vegeta. Any more training would push the young half-Saiyan ahead of the two full Saiyans as it did in the original Cell Saga. Piccolo doesn't have Nail within him, but he still makes strides towards a better life, and even with his own potential, he is able to become more powerful than androids 19 and 20, just as he did originally. I really can't stress enough how an extra year and a half of training helps the Z Fighters here, so there's nothing to worry about for now. Trunks is confused that the androids look different, but he assumes that he must have altered the past when he originally came back to warn them all. With Vegeta, Goku, and Gohan at a power far beyond his own, Trunks asks if they can teach him how to master Super Saiyan, so he can save his own timeline, which he knows won't be altered by these events. Goku says he'd be happy to, but Vegeta has realized that Trunks is his son after hearing his name, so Vegeta says he'll make sure he can protect the future on his own. Goku tells Vegeta to use the Room of Spirit and Time so Trunks doesn't have to stay away from the future for too long, and Goku tells Gohan that they'll use the room next, since there's something he wants to test too. Gohan is confused, but he agrees to go in with his father. A year with just the two of them was something that they may never get the opportunity to have again. Of course, this isn't the end of the threats to Earth. Even more specifically, it wasn't the end of the threat of the artificial humans. One more presence lurked in the shadows, concealing its exact location from even Kami, but never needing to reveal itself as it did in the original timeline, since 17 and 18 were never awakened. That's right, Cell is heading straight for Gero's lab, and he will consume the sleeping androids as they have no means to resist. Almost a full 2 days after Vegeta and Trunks use the time chamber, Cell has finally arrived, his suppressed ki making his travel much slower, and he begins to make his move. As Cell begins to absorb Android 17, the Z Fighters can sense the power increase. They aren't scared of the raw power that they're sensing though. They are scared of how that power feels like people they know. Luckily for them, Cell has no Freeza or King Cold DNA, as the Imperial duo never made their way to Earth in this version of events, so his DNA is made up of Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, and the humans instead. Because of this, we could argue Cell would be weaker, but considering the fact his DNA would have Super Saiyan Goku innately due to its earlier introduction, he may even be better off than before. Remember, Cell doesn't train, so having Frieza's potential doesn't really help him that much, as it's his birth strength that makes him so formidable. I think the argument of whether Cell is weaker or stronger in the story could go back and forth for ages, so instead, we'll just assume he's around the same as his original strength. Even with his original power, perfect Cell wouldn't be enough. Remember, Trunks and Vegeta have exited the time chamber, and it would only be a matter of time before Goku and Gohan exit as well. It seems that having Goku turn Super Saiyan early accelerates things leading to the Cell arc, thus trivializing it. Remember, Vegeta has already mastered Super Saiyan and got an extra year and a half worth of focused training before the arc began. That time should equate to, if not surpass his time wasted making the Super Saiyan Grade 2 form in the time chamber in the original story. Because of this, another year of training with Mastered Super Saiyan should put him above Perfect Cell, since he's only at best as strong as he was originally. So, without further ado, Vegeta and Trunks fly from the lookout to the location of the growing power source. When Vegeta arrives, Cell smiles wide and thanks Vegeta for saving him the trouble of finding him. Vegeta asks why he can feel the ki of different people emanating from Cell, so Cell tells Vegeta that he was created from their DNA. The perfect fighter, the perfect artificial life form, the perfect being. Vegeta laughs and tells Cell that he doesn't have enough of his DNA to be considered perfect in any way. With Vegeta on the case, Cell is the one who is arrogant and is eventually defeated by the Prince of the Saiyans. Or so he thought. With the help of his improved Piccolo DNA, Cell could regenerate his whole body from one single cell. In combination with his Saiyan DNA, the artificial lifeform was granted a power boost as well, becoming the dreaded Super Perfect Cell. However, timing wasn't on Cell's side. As he went to finish off Vegeta, Goku and Gohan arrive on the battlefield, both in their Super Saiyan forms. Goku steps up and tells Cell that he'll have to fight him now, but that wouldn't be an issue. There was something deep inside Cell that made him crave a battle with the infamous Son Goku. Judging by Goku's power, Cell thinks he has this fight already won, but Goku has a surprise for Cell. He powers up even further and transforms into a form beyond the Super Saiyan. Goku has gone into the time chamber with Gohan to discover and master Super Saiyan 2. As it was for Vegeta before, the time chamber was on top of an additional year and a half of training before the arc even began, so an additional year and Super Saiyan 2 allows Goku to surpass Super Perfect Cell in every single way. With the same mindset he had in the original Cell arc, Goku defeats Cell with one all-encompassing blast, making sure not to miss even a single cell when ending him. This of course leads us to a time of peace for 7 years. With Goku still alive and Chi-Chi more accepting of training, Gohan and even the newly born Goten continue to gain strength over time. During the time skip, we can even say that Super Saiyan 2 is mastered, allowing for everyone to gain access to the form, including the kids. Obviously, we're missing fusion and instant transmission still, but those probably won't even be required against Buu. I hate to do this for the millionth time, but once again, I can't see a convincing or interesting Buu saga existing in this version of events. It would all be the same until the battle in Babidi's ship happens. Vegeta and Goku would still defeat Pui Pui and Yakon with ease, but the major difference is Gohan would be strong enough to beat Dabura easily as well, thus stopping the resurrection of Majin Buu. As a lot of you have seen in the recent content on this channel, I'm trying to craft interesting versions of the Buu saga, but this was one I really couldn't find an interesting way to tell that still falls within the bounds of the series' logic. With all that said, 4 years of peace was about to be upon our heroes until the inevitable arrival of the God of Destruction, Beerus. How will the Battle of Gods and the resurrection of Freeza change? Find out in the next part. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already, and follow me on Twitter at Carthu's Dojo. And also, thank you so very much for watching.